Chapter 101. Resonating Truths, February 1st, 1796. Under a dark sky, one man trudged through the Black Sea under the harsh rain. Guardian Knight Khan had another letter in his breastplate. "You're here." "Yes, Lord Patriarch." Now, Siren didn't even need to say anything for Khan to take out the letter. The Guardian Knight handed it over with two hands, and Siren smiled. "What are your predictions on the results? Do you mean the young master's duel against Dante Hyran?" "Yeah." Rationally speaking, Dante definitely would have won since the young master couldn't use two of his specialties. However, seeing young Master Jin's progress, he has a chance. Slit. Opening the letter, Siren felt his heart flutter. Sender, Kashmir Receiver. Siren Run Candle Report. Jin Run Candle defeated Dante Hyran and won in the Cosmos Arena. Miscellaneous. Jin Run Candle achieved 6-star in swordsmanship. For lines, that was Kashmir's entire letter. Not a single line of banter or greeting. The epitome of brevity. However, reading the letter, Siren felt disappointed. Did he send it like this because I wanted it to be short? Of course, he was very proud that the youngest had some sense of awakening. However, he somewhat felt as if he were scammed. "Lord Patriarch, did something happen to the youngest?" Seeing Siren's expressionless face, Khan carefully asked. "No, it's nothing. He defeated Dante." "Then, don't worry about it. When you get back, tell Kashmir that I'd like to have a drink. I'm going to have to see his face." "Understood." Shiver. "Was there a cold breeze just now?" "Cold breeze, Sir Kashmir? There's a fire right in front of us." Jean pointed at the fireplace. Enya and Yuria snickered, and Elisa shrugged. "Last time, you spoke of a heat stroke in the middle of a January blizzard." "Honey, what's wrong? I think you're getting old." No, not that. I think it's just a hallucination. I think I should get you some medication." Kashmir lightly shook his head. They had all gathered in Jin's room to congregate. Jin already finished his training, Elisa got off from work, and Kashmir returned after finishing his job. Enya and Yuria just came to play with Jin, but Murakin and Gilly tried to make them play with puzzles instead. Hey, Ice Cream Runt, go play with this." "No, I want cat." "No, please. No." "Alright, I'll transform into a cat if you finish this puzzle. You promise." For a 6-year-old girl, a 1,000-piece puzzle was very hard. However, Yuria began to solve the jigsaw puzzle at a ridiculous speed. She didn't even start at the edges or matched similar pieces. She grabbed random pieces and placed them on the carpet. It was as if she had already memorized the puzzle beforehand. "Sir Murakin, I don't think a puzzle is effective for AZ Mills contractor." "Ah, I forgot. Damn it, I lost." "What do you mean you lost? You wanted to play with her in the first place." "Stop complaining." "Shut up, kiddo. Being a cat was boring enough when we were at the Run Candle main house." Poof! Murakin then transformed into a cat and began to meow. Yuria meowed back, then giggled. Hee hee. Everyone in the room smiled as they watched the playful sight. Trying to exhaust her and knock her out, Murakin energetically played with Yuria. Playing tag is the best game to get kids tired. Swoosh, swoosh. Murakin jumped from floor to desk, and Yuria chased him as if she were hypnotized. He's such a kind man in contrast to his manner of speech. "Don't you think, young master?" Yuria stumbled across the room while failing to catch Murakin. On the other hand, Murakin was having fun. He teased Yuria by barely escaping her hands each time she tried to catch him. Humph! After 5 minutes of chasing, Yuria tried to jump on top of the desk that Murakin was on. Hop! However, the desk was too tall for Yuria to jump on. "Oh! Yuria!" The young girl hit her head on the corner of the desk and fell backwards. The short game of tag quickly ended. Thankfully, she wasn't severely injured, but it was normal for all eyes to glare at Murakin. "Stupid black dragon. What were you gonna do if the kid got hurt?" "Naya!" Murakin lowered his ears. Flap! From the desk's cabinet, a piece of paper flew out and landed next to Yuria like a fallen leaf. While everyone checked on her well-being, Yuria did not fuss about her bruise. Instead, her eyes were fixed upon the piece of paper. "Wowie! It's a treasure map!" With glistening eyes, Yuria shouted. It was the treasure map that Jean received at the Cosmos Arena. He had placed the trophy on his desk and the meaningless treasure map in his cabinet, being forgotten. He thought that receiving a treasure map as a prize from a pirate gang was worthless. In reality, Cosmos wanted the victor to take the treasure chest instead of the 1,000 gold coins. He had also determined that the treasure map he stole from one of his plundering conquests was worthless. Essentially, it was a scam. However, thanks to Jean taking both prizes, Cosmos couldn't make much of a profit that day. Anyways, be more careful when playing. Are you going to take responsibility when the kid gets hurt? That's right, Sir Murakin. Still, Miss Yuria is strong. I'm pretty she fell pretty hard. There's something important there. Yuria stood up and raised the map into the air. There's something important here. Yuria's eyes were filled with certainty and hope. If it were a random child who was shouting, then they'd laugh off the child's imagination. However, as AZ Mills contractor, Yuria could easily match 1,000-piece or 10,000-piece puzzles and see all objects and phenomena as they should be with her absolute eye. Hence, the map was a real treasure map. On the shoddy drawings, there was an X on one side and ancient scripts in the empty space. I thought those characters were a joke because even Murakin and Quicantle couldn't read it. There weren't many ancient languages that Murakin couldn't read. Even though he couldn't read some, he could still deduce its era by looking at the characters. What do you mean by something important? Yuria, can you tell us more? As soon as Jean threw a question, Yuria's glimmering eyes of curiosity proceeded to glisten with tears. She slumped down and began to wail. Wah! I'm very sad. With AZ Mills' ability activated, Yuria was seeing something different than the others. A treasure hidden somewhere deep, and the tragedies that occurred because of said treasure. AZ Mills' ability must be activated right now. First, we have to calm her. Runt, bring Lathri, quick! The activation of a divine ability against the young contractor's will was not good, especially for AZ Mills contractors due to the fact that they could lose their sense of reality. At these times, she needed her guardian dragon. Why yes, Kashmir rushed outside, and Elisa cradled the little girl in her arms. This happened many times before. It seems our daughter isn't normal at all. A few seconds later, Lathri arrived. Where's Yuria? Here. Lathri ran over to Yuria and sat next to her. His eyes closed, and a blue energy wrapped around them. Resonance. Among the scenes that Yuria saw with her ability, Lathri took the sad and depressing parts and suffered them instead. The child soon began to calm down. However, Lathri, in his human form, flinched every now and then. He was clearly seeing shocking sights. After 10 minutes of resonance, Yuria was fast asleep, and Lathri took a deep breath as he sweated rivers. Phew! Lathri stood and bowed. Even though he wasn't born yet during Murakin's prime, he gave the shadow dragon the utmost respect. Oh, Sir Murakin, I couldn't greet you due to the lack of time. Don't worry about it. What did Ice Cream Runt see? That wasn't the future, but the past. Past? AZ Mills contractor can only see the past in certain cases. Yes, deeply rooted desires or resentment. Only when she touches an object or visits a location associated with such emotions does she see the past. Phew, if I were a little late, it would have been fatal. It was awfully grotesque. No matter how young, the Dragon of Verity had lived for over 500 years. Lathri shuddered. He knew how horrifying it would be for Yuria to witness such visions. I didn't think it'd be anything important because I couldn't interpret it. However, it must be a very important map. So, what did you see? Some ancient lands. A tribe of natives worshipping some temple. Lathri breathed slowly, remembering what he just saw. Other humans came to them. They seemed to be magicians. About 10 of them. The magicians initially joined their religious practice. And then, one magician killed a native's child. A very young person, younger than Yuria, while alive, As the horrifying explanation continued, the listeners began to breathe heavily. Lathri shed a tear as he looked at Uria's innocent face. And they kept on killing the children. Constantly. They wanted something. It's the divine object that the natives worshipped. After listening up to that point, Jean thought of a tale that he knew. Sir Lathri, would you please draw what that divine object looked like? Oh, wait. Lathri received the pen and paper and quickly drew the object that he saw. A round disc. The object was emitting light, but it looked like a normal silver mirror. When it didn't. Kholin Ruins. The treasure map was pointing to the Kholin Ruins mirror artifact. Chapter 102. Tragedy of Kholin 1. An unexpected discovery. A mirror. The fountain of mana. Who would have thought that a map from a pirate-hosted tournament led to such an artifact? An ancient artifact made known to the world by a brave journalist before Jin's regression. At the time, the journalist scrupulously revealed the mirror's existence together with the atrocities that the Zipfel clan committed towards the Kholin natives. Of course, this news was fatal for the Zipfels, who symbolized and protected peace and justice. However, the journalist could not face the massive clan alone. The Zipfels quickly silenced those who spoke angrily of the clan. And the tragedy of Kholin's natives was never spoken of again. Soon after, the first journalist disappeared. It didn't take long for the people to forget the journalist's brave deeds. The Kholin natives then continued their civilization as if they were invisible. Then this map must be made by the natives. And since its worth wasn't discovered, this map was just tossed everywhere. Just like Myelta's rune. It was possible that the Kholin natives, who were oppressed by the Zipfels, wanted someone to notice the map and hoped an adventurer would come to free them. Well, Jean planned on visiting the Kholin ruins anyways. He needed to find the mirror before the Zipfels and prevent them from creating a powerful magician army. Additionally, he needed to investigate the illegal magic experimentation in the area. Personally for Jean, there were more reasons to go. Unlike the journalist, I don't have the heart to save those people. But I'd be helping them a little if I'm packing some punches onto the Zipfel clan. But there was one problem. Hey kid, why the long face? Do you know what Lathri drew? They didn't know that Jean knew about the tragedy of Kholin and the mirror. This is what's bad about being a regressor. Though it was an easy problem to solve. I don't know. But I got a bad feeling. Sir Kashmir, I think you should investigate the contents of this map. This was why he settled in Tychan. Yes, I agree. I'm also worried about the history that my daughter envisioned. It's as if, I think this map came into your hands for a reason. That's right, young Master Jean. First, I'll search far and wide for someone to read these ancient texts. Then we can find our first clue. Sir Kashmir, this is just a hunch, but I don't think the seven-colored peacock should openly investigate this case. With that much resentment stored in the object, we may not know if the atrocities are still occurring. That's a good point. Magicians who slaughtered the natives. I hope it's not related to the Zipfels. The seven-colored peacock immediately began their investigation, but they couldn't achieve much in 2 weeks. It was expected. The Kholin natives were part of the Palon Kingdom, which was part of the Lutero Magic Federation. And centuries ago, a majority of them were slaughtered by the Zipfels. Due to this, not many remained on the land. On top of that, since the few that were left remained trapped in the Kholin ruins, it was definitely hard to find someone who could read the map. However, the first clue was found in an unexpectedly close location. February 17, 1796. After finishing his morning training, he sought the Tychan Central Defense Force with Uria and Lathri in order to find Elisa. Jean, Mommy will like it if she gets this, right? Most certainly. I'm sure she'll toss you in the air and laugh. Uria wanted to give her mother a family drawing, so she asked Jean to come with her. Welcome to the Tychan Center. Oh, Uria. Hello. Hello. Where's Mommy? Oh, my daughter. Mommy's over here. I see you two are also here. Oh, what's this? Present. Uria grinned and showed the drawing to her mother. Elisa couldn't contain her maternal pride. My goodness, you're so good at drawing. Let's see. This must be Daddy. This is Jean, and you drew Enya too. Gilly, Murakan, Quicantle, and Lathri were also drawn on the small paper. Elisa picked up Yuria as she looked throughout the entire page. Ha ha ha, you should be a painter when you grow up. Alright, wait a moment here. Mommy has to fight some papers and documents, and then let's go eat lunch. You want to eat seafood stew? Oh, seafood. Yes. After seeing her mother so happy and hearing the word seafood, Yuria began to sing a song containing only the word seafood. Jean and Lathri couldn't contain their smiles as well. Whip, whip. Sounds of moving pens from here and there could be heard. It was the defense forces dealing with legal documents, and the criminals writing self-reflections. Self-reflections. After Elisa was promoted to the chief of defense, she was plummeting the already low crime rate of Tychon. However, those who were dragged and trampled some flowers in the public garden or acted poorly while drunk, so they just wrote a self-reflection and made a short visit to a correctional facility. The city isn't that big, but she manages it so well. Lady Elisa is amazing. The Huphester Alliance is managed by the Runcandles, yet they still have a lot of bad crimes. As Jean mentally applauded Elisa's work, Lathri looked around at the criminals. Humans are such mysterious creatures. Why do they make the same mistake if they know that breaking the law would get them punished? Not sure. Are dragons not like that? No. Now that I think about it, dragons are also pretty foolish. Haha, what am I saying? Please don't tell Sir Murakan that I tainted the dragon race's reputation. It seems you are very cautious of Murakan. Did he bully you or something? No, not that. Did you know what my parents already pegged into my ear? Watch out for the black dragons, especially the Murakan and Misha. Siblings. Lathri definitely fell for Wind Dragon Viretta's tricks while avoiding black dragons. And amongst my fellow dragons, Sir Murakan is a legendary being. There's some bad and some good reasons. Oh, while explaining, Lathri stopped and fixed his eyes on something. It was someone getting questioned by a defense agent. Jean naturally looked as well. The man's slow and slurred speech stuttered. Yesterday, I drank too much. I apologize. Hey, don't talk like that. You're not reflecting at all. If you're drunk, then go inside and sleep. Why sing in the middle of the night and wake everyone? Because, I'm Zed. I'm Zori. You've done this multiple times before. If you keep doing this, the bar will not take you anymore. Do you know how much I pleaded the local bartenders to not kick you out? Thank you. Oh, you want a cigar? Ha! Shit, I'm gonna die early because of you. Alright, let's burn through one, and you're gonna promise me that you'll drink and not cause a ruckus. Please. I understand, but I don't have any cigar. Fucking hell. It looked like an alcoholic who came in often. He caused nothing serious, but he formed relationships with the defense forces every time he came. And the man had deep red skin. A crimson person? His skin is pretty red for one. Nothing too abnormal for a diverse city like Tychon. However, seeing that man, Lathri's expression was not great. Lord Jean, that man looks just like the natives I saw in the vision when I resonated with Yuria. Oh, really? Yes, and that slurred speech. It means that he's not used to speaking this land's language. There was only one way to find out. Why don't we show him the map? Let's take him to lunch as well. As the man and the defense agent went to smoke, Jean followed them. The man lit a cigar. The officer took a puff as well, swore a little, then went back to work. Hey, a boy. Whom are you? Why don't we go eat something? I had quite a drink as well. Oh, sounds good. But I don't got money. It's on me. Asterisk, 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 the man's eyes darted from place to place. The crimson person's name was Alapan Tupin Maypan. Pan for short. Boy, why did you not tell me that the chief was coming? The chief is scary. Elisa wasn't really looking at Pan at all. She had already heard the story from Jean and Lathri. Help yourself, Pan, and stop getting caught. You're too innocent. I see this man a lot. He's always there when I go see Mommy. Not always. The delectable seafood stew was served steaming hot. Yuria's and Pan's eyes glimmered. Thank you for the meal. The crimson person no longer felt awkward and began to stuff himself. It seemed he had some pocket problems. After an hour of eating, boy. Yes. Can I take some to go? My sibling is hungry. Take as much as you need. But before you leave, oh, they're here. Over here. Jean waved his hand at a very angry man who opened the door. Murakin, the angry man, ran to Jean after getting the message, bring the map. Now this is too far. I'm Murakin. Murakin. You can make the runt do this instead. Sir Kashmir is always busy with his work, and Gilly does a lot of stuff. Enya has to study and all you do is goof around. This is the least you could do. What about Quicantle? Excluding her. Lathri fidgeted as he saw Jean reprimand Murakin. The young Runcandle snatched the map from the Shadow Dragon's hands and showed it to Pan. Pan, do you know what this is? And as soon as he saw the map, this, where'd you get this? He looked very shocked. Chapter 103, Tragedy of Colin 2. Pan's expression was peculiar. With furrowed eyebrows, he shuddered in fear, but his eyes continued to trace each character. Can you read the characters? How? Did you know that I was from the Colin ruins? Whom are you guys? With a cautious glare, Pan looked at Jean. He remembered when he escaped his homeland that became ruins 3 years ago. The day he went to the free city of Tychon to escape from the eyes of the Zipfel clan. What's the best way to put this? I'm Chief Elise's guest. This black-haired guy is a dragon. The green-haired fellow is also a dragon. And the child is clearly a 6-year-old child. Jean revealed their identities, and Pan wasn't the only one who was startled. Hey kid, why'd you say all that? What do you mean, why? Mr. Pan seems to know some valuable information about the map. Mr. Pan, this is how we identified you. It would be best to tell the truth. Other than the fact that Uria was AZ Mills' contractor. Lathri, the greenhead, is AZ Mills' dragon. He touched this map and saw a vision due to the resentment stored within the object. In his vision, he saw people like you who were being tormented. It was essentially a coincidence. Pan remained silent for a while, then spoke. May I go have a smoke? Go ahead. Pan trudged to the front yard of the restaurant. Leaning on the wall, he lit the stick. I'm pretty sure he said he didn't have any cigars. But he had them. Jean smirked, and Lathri worriedly opened his mouth. That man. What if he escapes? How the hell would he? This is the runt's land. Oh right. I apologize, Lord Murakin. Apologize for what? Oh, it's nothing. After burning through the entire stick, Pan looked more composed and organized. Calmer than before. May I ask a few things? Of course. Are you guys the Zipfels? We aren't exactly in good relations with them. Do you know what the eyes map means? Doesn't it lead to treasure? Not a treasure. I see. Jean answered and lightly shrugged. Pan's eyes narrowed. Will you harm me if I don't help? We swear that we will not. Even after you take out the seafood stew, we will not harm or threaten you. We can't do anything about you being captured for poor behavior. Instead, our meeting will be non-existent. Jean had no intention of lying. Since he admitted that he's a Colin native, I'm sure he went through many things evading the Zipfel's eyes. There's no need to harass him. Silence filled the room, and Pan was deep in thought. Was it truly a coincidence that he met Jean? Or were they hunting him down? He arrived at a conclusion. It wasn't something he could just decide upon. My sibling? Yes. Everyone, I think we should go see my sibling. Jean nodded. Then let's wait a little for them to package the food. Pan was a talented liar. He said he didn't have a cigar, but he had a pack. He said they should go to see his sibling, but it wasn't his sibling. After taking his packaged seafood stew, they went to Pan's home, which was located in a deep alleyway. They barely had any free space. This is the first time Pan brought guests home. Welcome, nobles of Tychon. The person who welcomed them was a woman who was disguised as Pan's sibling. Although she was much younger than Pan, her brother bowed in her presence. Lady Lausa, I brought guests without your permission. Good job, Pan. An eerie mood. Lausa's aura felt mysterious. Jean couldn't say that it was strong, but it wasn't something to approach without caution. She overflowed with sacred energy. Usually, Murakan would say something like, "Why is the house so shit?" But he was watching his language. As soon as Jean saw her, he knew. The Kala natives have the most noble blood. They were the god-chosen race. It seems she's the last descendant. Lausa seemed to have deep wisdom. The one born from the birthplace of swordsmanship and chosen by the shadow, a black dragon, and the dragon of verity, as well as the beloved child of Az Mil. And Tychon's chief of defense who always cares for Pan. Startled. Everyone was surprised and stared at Lausa. How did you? It's just a little talent. I apologize if I startled you. Pan, please get some tea. Yes'm. As Pan poured water into a crooked kettle, Jin's back began to sweat. A little talent? And a calm attitude, as if she already knew that they were coming. Jean had never encountered a human like Lausa. No, he didn't even know if she was human at all. This transcending aura. I felt it before. The same aura he felt the moment he contracted with Sodaret in his past life. It was weaker but similar. Lady Lausa, are you a god? Although it could sound too out of place, excluding Yuria, everybody else also had that question due to the stifling air. Still, her aura was powerful. It begged the question, is she a god? No, I'm a vessel. If I were a god, then I wouldn't have lost my homeland and lived my life in hiding. Murakan nodded as if he knew. She was a god's vessel. There's great wisdom remaining, but soon it'll be all gone. That is true. However, saying so makes my heart hurt. Oh great black dragon. Listening to all of the conversations so far, I think it's pointing at the Kalin ruins. You guys are Kalin natives. This is the first time I heard about a god who descended there. Who is it? Even if I told you, you would not know. Besides, would you please show me the map? Lausa extended her arm and opened her hand. Jean lent her the map. My dead grandfather created this map. It was supposed to have two fates. And thankfully, instead of the Zipfels, it came to you. It seems my feeble devotions have worked. May I ask what is written on that map? The one who reads this through a Kalin's heart. Please do not forsake us. Please come and shout, we are mere quiet people. Quiet people. The god gave us a heavy order, but not enough strength to execute it. I am resentful. Lausa slowly read and interpreted the sentences written in their native tongue. Something like that. Despite her calm voice, Lausa shed a tear. She remembered the centuries of oppression and her dead grandfather. The order written here is to protect the item located on the X. Do you know the situation in Kalin? It's in ruins because of the Zipfels. While at home, I have executed a mission there. Haha. Under the guise of artifact excavation, the Zipfel clan is trying to find our sacred item. Even with their advanced magic, they are struggling to do so. However, it's only a matter of time before they succeed. Since we cannot stop them. TSSSSSSSSSS. The kettle blew steam. Pan, who was slowly serving the tea, seemed to be holding back his tears. His back flinched every now and then. Regaining composure, Pan distributed the filled teacups. Lausa smiled. My grandfather was a realistic person. Without any promise of reciprocation, he begged to not be forsaken. However, I am not like that. Would you like to make a trade with me? You're literally on the verge of losing your wisdom, and you want to trade? Just ask us for help. We're going to go to the Kalin ruins anyway. Although he spoke harsh words, Murakan really wanted to help Lausa's helplessness. Jean also thought that a deal was not necessary. As Murakan said, they were going to go anyway, and his original plan was to prevent the Zipfels from getting their hands on the mirror artifact. I do not believe in favors done out of pity. Pan and I had to suffer many battles just to achieve this small house. Oh, Lady Lausa, please forget those memories. I apologize. If you are sorry, then please stop drinking and getting arrested, Pan. Anyways, if you are willing to save my people, there is only one thing I can offer. What is it? I will. Use the rest of my divine power to call your god. I'm sure it's been a while since you heard Soderet's voice. Murakin and Jean looked at each other. Ho ho, you seem to know a lot. How does this city have an old god's vessel and AZ Mills contractor? Too many kids with clairvoyance and wisdom. What are you gonna do, Jean? What do you think? There's no reason to refuse. I understand, Lady Lausa. I will leave for the Colin ruins soon. However, I can't guarantee that I can save your people. He would help them if it were as simple as fighting the Zipfel magicians, obtaining the mirror, and escorting the natives to safety. But salvation wasn't his thing. Going there is already enough. I will tell you more about the internal problems. So please stay a little longer. February 20th, 1796. Only 3 were going to the Colin ruins. Jean, Murakin, and Kashmir. After the death of André and Violetta, Quicantle could not show her face to the Zipfels at any moment. Gilly's powers were still being suppressed, and Enya was too inexperienced to venture on such a mission. As for Elisa, she needed to stay in Tychen to maintain security. So, by process of elimination, the 3 men had to go. They disguised themselves as normal tourists and got ready to leave. However, they already hit a problem. What's this? They're not opening the ruins to tourists anymore. Things had changed since Jin's cadet days. The Colin ruins had become a restricted area that even barred people during the day. Chapter 104, Tragedy of Colin 3. Damn, I should have sent some agents beforehand. Disappointed, Kashmir shook his head. They didn't send anyone before due to the chances of their plan getting foiled. Also, because the Colin ruins was such an open tourist area, they didn't think that they needed to scout the situation. Even if you sent your goons, there would be no difference. That's true, but while everyone stood in despair, Jean remembered that this didn't happen in his past life. The Colin ruins were always open before my regression. That's why the brave journalist incident occurred in the first place. Maybe my cadet mission here changed something. After dealing with the living golems and committing arson, he had returned to his clan. And the Zipfels announced it as an accident instead of an act of terrorism or invasion. Responsibility. That word shot through Jin's mind. In my past life, 11 years later, the world found out about the Zipfels' plan through the journalist. And since the fate of the world changed because of me, the plan should be exposed earlier. He didn't really care about the Colin natives, who he had never seen even a single time. However, he didn't want to make their lives more miserable because of his regression. I can't save them as Lausa wished. Well, there's no need to anyway. However, I don't need to become like the Zipfel scum who contribute to their suffering. Jean looked at the restricted area sign with the Zipfel clan's dragon coat of arms. What are you gonna do, kiddo? I think trespassing is dangerous since we don't know their inner workings and troop count. That's correct. And you mentioned that Zipfels used this area for forbidden magic? I don't think there'll only be a few station troops, young Master Jean. There's a very high chance that they got rid of the evidence for that stuff since I got exposed to it. But this sign, isn't it a little strange? Kashmir and Murakin looked where Jean pointed. What is? They only installed a steel fence, and there's no security or barrier magic. Just a sign. The Zipfel clan wouldn't manage an important restricted area like this. The barrier was very crude for a world-class clan like the Zipfels. Now that you mention it, you're right, young Master Jean. Of course, even though there's no security, nobody would be crazy enough to enter when the Zipfels' insignia is glaring right at them. But indeed, it's very poorly done. When I first came here for a mission, there were many security spells even on the low-tier relic storages. I think the Zipfel clan is neglecting this area. Didn't Lady Lausa say that the Zipfels were searching for the Colin natives' sacred object? Because of this, many natives were massacred to obtain it. But since they're neglecting it, doesn't that mean they already found it? No idea. They've been oppressing them for centuries, and their forbidden magic experiments were already exposed to an outsider. For all we know, they could be just leaving the natives alone. Jean didn't think that the Zipfels had found the mirror that quickly. If so, they would have already been mass-producing 7-star magicians in the Magic Academy. In fact, This sign looks too crude. It's made of wood, not even steel. It looks like a magician just slapped it on there. That could also be the case. They could just be tired of tourists, so someone could have asked the Zipfels for permission to close the area for a while. Every organization is bound to have a lazy manager. The three just walked past the sign, and the more they walked, the more they were certain with their deductions. Seeing as there are weeds here and there, it means they're not tending to it. But still, there's not a single animal, which means that there are still people in here. The museum, warehouse, and magician's lodgings were just as he remembered it. In fact, Jean could see the traces of arson that he committed. Seeing that they greatly neglected the land, he knew that the Zipfels disposed of the area. Oh, I see some people over there. Crimson people like Lausa. They saw some figures at the end of the road. The three hid in the trees to observe them. The Crimson people looked pretty depressed. The natives' presence means that the mirror is still here. Then why did the Zipfels clear out this place? Did they just give up after trying for centuries, just like Kashmir said? Right as Jean thought about it, a man emerged from within the crowd. A man with messy silver hair. He shouted at the Crimson people, but it looked like he was drunk. His hair color is the same as Baradin's, and that looks like a wine bottle in his hand. Maybe? A name popped into mind. The man deemed as the hysteric of the tower in Jin's past life. Myron Zipfel? Keliark Zipfel's sixth son. As his nickname suggested, Myron was very hysterical and hot-headed. He would become a celebrity in the future due to his strange demeanor. Mostly because his behavior contradicted the Zipfel's dignified image. Young master, that seems to be Myron Zipfel. The silver hair is the symbol of their clan. And amongst the pureblood Zipfels, he is the only one known to wield a wine bottle in broad daylight. Kashmir also knew about him. What? A pureblood Zipfel? Why is that guy in this uninhabited land? Sir Murakan, Myron's behavior is known to be rowdy, so he doesn't get a lot of respect within the Zipfel clan. Last I heard was that he's the pillar of the Zipfel's 7th Tower of Magicians, but it seems he was demoted? Or maybe he's on vacation. If he's a pureblood, he must have many guardian magicians. Let's decide on our next move after we see how many bodyguards he has. When Myron goes back into the building, let's talk to the Crimson people. I think that hearing some insight about the situation is the best way to approach this. The three waited in the trees until Myron returned to the building. The problem was that Myron never went back into the building. That motherfucker, what is he? He's been out here for 8 hours, stuffing his ass with alcohol. He isn't even going to the restroom. After Myron showed up, he immediately sat down and began to drink. He hadn't moved a single inch since then. I've heard rumors that Myron Zipfel was an alcoholic, but this is too much. Still, the three didn't gain nothing from hiding and observing the enemy. Every time Myron shouted or talked to himself, they were able to extract some information. First, Myron didn't seem to have any other magicians around him. And he came to the Kalin ruins because the clan banished him. Kuhaha, those old elder hag bitches treated me like a disposable cockroach. Those cute fucks. More wine. Shouting such things very often. Although he looked defenseless, the Crimson people didn't dare to touch him. In fact, every time he waved his hand in the air, the Kalin natives either flinched or lowered their heads. I don't think he has any backup with him. Don't we just need to beat him up and then escape with the Crimson people? Annoyed, Murakan gritted his teeth. Sir Murakan, Myron Zipfel is an 8-star magician. On top of that, as the pillar of the 7th Tower of Magicians, he must have many artifacts. What's the problem? Runt, I know I lost a lot of power, but you think I can't fight an 8-star magician? We have you and this kid as well. He's not just any 8-star. He's a Zipfel, Murakan. Killing a pureblood Zipfel is something to ponder about. With the death of Andre some time ago, this can affect world politics. You think I don't know that? I'm just pissed and annoyed, okay? If there were Zipfel magicians stationed within the area, then it would be easier to take action. They could fight the troops, win, then evacuate the Kalin natives. However, they couldn't do anything because Myron was a pureblood. This isn't good. As soon as Myron dies, there'll be bloodlust from the Zipfels. After the death of Andre, the Cold War between the Runcandles and Zipfels had escalated. The Zipfels only remained silent because they did not have evidence that a Runcandle killed Andre. But things would change if another pureblood Zipfel died. In fact, assassination would also be impossible. Even though Myron looked defenseless, they were certain that he would cast defensive spells whenever he passed out. We need to make it so that the Zipfels stay put even if Myron dies. The best way would be to uncover evidence regarding their forbidden magic experiments. If they could obtain evidence, then the clan of magicians wouldn't budge despite Myron's death. But I'm certain that the remnants of the experiments were demolished. Jean covered his own mouth. While thinking, he forgot one crucial truth. Murakan. Lausa said that there are about 200 Colin natives left, right? Yeah. That's why the Runt prepared some ships. And how many Colin natives have we seen so far? About 50. Wait. Murakan and Kashmir sighed. They hadn't even seen 50 natives, including the ones near Myron. I don't think the others are resting or anything. They aren't conducting more living golem experiments, right? If they were conducting living golem experiments using the Colin natives, it was no longer about a deterrent. Once Myron falls asleep, let's check inside the complex. FWIP. The moment Jean finished his sentence, the three simultaneously looked back at the entrance of the ruins. They sensed some footsteps. Rustle, someone was coming in. The footsteps are delicate. Someone who came in without permission, like us. However, the person wasn't talented in concealing their footsteps. Jean hid his presence with spiritual energy and held his dagger on the new trespasser's throat. Who are you? Chapter 105. Tragedy of Colin 4. The invader froze like a statue as soon as he felt the blade. He looked very nervous. A man who was a little shorter than Jean. I will not ask twice. Reveal your identity. Wah-ha! Myron Zipfel's laugh could be heard from far away. Murakan and Kashmir evaluated the situation and shifted their vision from Myron to the unknown man. I am... Gulp! The man gulped and flexed his muscles. He was trying to suppress his shudders of fear. Jean thought the man had some courage. It seemed that he wasn't a knight or a magician, but just a normal civilian. Dino Zeglin, a journalist. As soon as he heard the name, Jin's eyes widened. Dino Zeglin, the journalist guy? Jean remembered that name. Before his regression, Dino Zeglin was the journalist who exposed the Zipfels' twisted objectives and the tragedy of Colin. He sheathed his dagger. Turn around. Dino slowly turned. Although he looked like he was in his early 20s, his facial features suggested that he was younger. Jean began to analyze the journalist. Early 20s, frail body. So this guy wrote the report against the Zipfels without a hint of fear. And he's already investigating the Colin ruins, which means he's been investigating this case for at least a decade. Respectable. Jean felt respect for the man. A man named Dino, who came from nowhere with nothing to lose, exposed the Zipfels simply from pure work ethic. The journalist could not look at Jean, who was already covering his face with Myalta's rune. With fearful eyes, Dino also began to analyze him, whether the man with the helm was a Zipfel underling or a relic raider, or maybe a person who also came to explore the Colin ruins. A journalist? Did you come for some news? Jean tossed the question and Dino slowly nodded. Yes, that's right. What is it about? Before I respond, may I ask about your affiliation? Man, look at this runt. So fun to watch humans tremble in fear, especially if it's a journalist. Snickering, Murakan walked towards Jean. Kashmir followed the black dragon. He pulled out 2 masks, covered his face with one, and handed the other to Murakan. Jean began to laugh as well. Didn't you two already reveal your face to this fellow? Covering up is still a good idea. I don't want to put this on. Put it on. Well, whatever. And from this short conversation, Dino could easily identify the leader of the group. This guy still sounds like a kid. But he's the leader. He's not a normal raider or a soldier. Who are these people? I don't think they're evil or anything. The two fixed their masks, and Jean opened his mouth once more. We won't kill you or anything, so you can calm down. As for our affiliation, we're just passers-by. You guys are passers-by? It means, don't ask. Now it's your turn to answer. Is there some breaking news here? Or did you come for some allowance from the Zipfel clan's sixth son over there? Jean turned his head towards Myron. He intentionally threw a question to aggravate Dino. That way, he could identify the determined young man's main goal. Then, Jean could reveal his own motives and team up with the journalist. Dino chuckled and made an awkward smile. Allowance, you say? Yeah, there's a lot of journalists like that. Rotten slaves who write articles that benefit the rich and noble. If you guys are Zipfel underlings, I'd be dead. I came to rake the muck and expose the garbage. Satisfied with the response, Jean smiled. A very respectable fellow. It was known that courage shone brighter when one lacked strength. With that in mind, Jean felt great satisfaction from Dino. Additionally, he had a feeling that the journalist would be a great ally with good intel. Exposing Myron Zipfel. A random journalist. This is the most moving joke I've heard this year. So, are you guys Zipfel underlings? Since I said I'll expose Myron, are you going to kill me now? Dino already forgot about his trembling fear. Weirdly enough, he trusted Jean when he said, "We won't kill you or anything." No way. We came due to a friend's request to rescue the Colin natives. Unfortunately, we can't reveal our identities to you, journalist Dino Zeglin. However, I think we have a common goal. Don't you think so? Dino blinked and stared at the three masked men. Many different emotions made his heart race. Amongst them, the biggest was happiness from finding allies after a long era of solitude and isolation. You guys know about the Colin natives' plight? Not very well. We only know that they were conquered by the Zipfel centuries ago and that they've lived their lives as slaves until now. Hey kid, can you tell this guy all of that? Murakin intruded on the conversation, and Kashmir lightly put his hand over Murakin's mouth before pushing him backwards. Murakin glared at Kashmir with beastly eyes. Yoop, what are you doing? Runt? You crazy? Young Master Jean seems to be digging for information to find a deterrent against the Zipfel's retaliation for Myron's assassination. Let's just watch. Kashmir had a good feeling about Jin's actions, so he whispered to Murakin. Just as he said, Jean was trying to get something out of Dino. In order to prevent a full-scale war, they needed to find a way to prevent the Zipfel clan from acting upon another pureblood Zipfel's death. In fact, it's likely that Dino knows a lot about the clan's atrocities against the Colin natives. Even now, he's in the restricted area, hunting for scoops. Of course, they needed to check for a few things first. Dino, we have actually been here since noon, and we've been observing Myron ever since. Because we don't know what's going on inside, we're just gathering intel. We're just here to help the Colin natives escape instead of assassinating Myron. First, how much Dino knew about the Colin ruin situation. It could be that he only had the fervor for his quest instead of any valuable information. However, the journalist provided a satisfying answer once more. It's only Myron who's here, and I think that the person who asked you to help the Colin natives must be Prophet Lausa. Is that right? Have you been investigating this area ever since? No, it hasn't been long since I started exploring this region. I just found out about her while I interviewed the natives. His story went on. After Lausa escaped, the Zipfel clan began to abuse the Colin natives. After last year's arson case, they sealed up the area and forced Myron to tend the land by himself. That's what they did to obtain the divine relic. The clan seemed to be diverting all their attention to it, but now it's just Myron here. Maybe their interest declined. I mean, they still haven't found it even after 300 years. Dino pulled out a journal from his chest and handed it to Jean. A journal with all of the events that happened in the Colin ruins after Myron's arrival. January 3, 1796. 3 Colin natives missing. Myron probably dragged them into the basement. January 5, 1796. The Colin natives I used to talk to are all gone. I could interview Ludica Taika Mamutica. I was told by this native that Myron was conducting experiments on them. Taika. Her eyes were filled with fear. As Jean calmly read through the journal, he could only focus on the word, experiment. Nice journal you got here. As soon as Myron finds out about this, you'd be dead meat. As soon as they find out about me, I'm dead. This is proof that I'm doing worthwhile work, and it keeps me responsible. I'm sure you already know from the journal, but Myron is conducting experiments on the Colin natives. Are you sure? I'm certain. Before the Colin ruins closed down, I heard that the Zipfuls were conducting living golem experiments. However, it seems the Colin natives who reported these sightings didn't seem to know about living golems. Dino knew much more than Jean expected. Myron's basement will be the best evidence. Before he came, there were at least 200 natives. However, most of them got dragged into the basement, and now there are only 50 of them left. Dino gritted his teeth. Jean was still scanning the journal, and it seemed the journalist had deep ties with the natives. Basement. If he could preserve the evidence or publicize a sketch, it could prevent the Zipfuls from budging. Recently, he hasn't been using the natives for experiments. He may be leaving some alive to find the relic. Jean continued to read the journal. February 6, 1796. While investigating, Myron caught me. Thankfully, he was drunk, and he didn't do much other than offer me a drink. Maybe I can get more information by taking advantage of this. February 7, 1796. I set out to find Myron if he remembered me, and thankfully he did. He said that he'll forgive me for coming into a restricted area as long as I come as a drinking buddy. It's a success. And that was 2 weeks ago. Ho! So you've succeeded in encountering Myron. Dino grinned and nodded. Yes, my visit today is to get some information out of him while acting as a friend. Myron always sits there, drinks, and causes a ruckus. At this point, Kashmir and Murakan couldn't hide their surprise. They had been waiting since daylight, making no progress, but this journalist provided everything they needed to know. I am very thankful that I met you all. So, what do you think? I will attract his attention so you guys can go check out the basement. Jean shook his head. No, we can't do that. Chapter 106. Tragedy of Colin 5. Do you not like the plan? There's not a single guard or magician in there. As long as I can divert his attention, sneaking a peek in the basement would be easy as pie. Nah, let's say that you do distract him. We go check the basement and see there really are living golem experiments. Then we can guarantee some evidence of the experiments. We can't guarantee your safety after that. Can't I just deal with him while he drinks and then slowly withdraw? After you all escape the basement, that is. It seems you don't know a lot about magicians. How many security spells do you think are in there? The moment we approach the basement, Myron will definitely find out. Then you're dead. I didn't come here without knowing the possibility of death. Sometimes there is a difference between courage and foolishness, my journalist friend. There's no point in dying before you even start the revolution. Jean didn't want to use Dino like a disposable card. This brave journalist had all rights for a prolonged life. And if Dino died, then all of his precious progress would be lost. Let's do this. Instead, with your introduction, we also become Myron's drinking buddies. Pardon. Let's go drink together. We'll pretend to be stranded soldiers and storytellers. Our story is that we just met you coincidentally, and you brought us to him because you thought we were cool. You think Myron will believe that? I'm sure he'll be suspicious. Jean sighed and grinned. From your experience, what kind of person is he? A lunatic. A sadist who feels refreshment from others' misfortune and pain. Something like that. That's right. But is that all? Even though he's living each day like that, he's the Zipful's sixth son. I'm sure he already knows who you are. Dino quickly waved his hands in front, denying that fact. No way. If he knew, then he wouldn't have kept me alive. I'm sure he doesn't know your exact identity, but read your journal again. Every single native you interviewed had been dragged into the basement. What would this mean? Dino had thought that the order of Myron's experimental subjects were random and not at all related to his own actions because the Zipfel wasn't harming the journalist in any way. However, following basic logic, a person of power wouldn't let someone undermine their plans. The misconception impaired Dino's thought process, even though he had recorded that every single native he talked with had been dragged into the basement within a week. And a drinking buddy? You think Myron is really keeping you around because he's lonely? There's no way. He had been observing a rat trapped in a cage. You? What do you? A rat in a cage? Me? Yeah. Maybe he got a little curious. Why is this kid so courageous for no reason? Why is this kid not realizing that I'm dragging natives each time he talks to them? Thinking something like that. There's no way. What would he gain from doing that? You said it yourself. He's a lunatic who enjoys others' suffering. Then, he'd be feeling great watching you, right? Instantaneously, Dino started stumbling backwards. He thought that Jin's theory was a stretch. However, there was no way to refute it. The logic was flawless. And if it were true, he didn't know how to compensate for the natives whom he indirectly killed. So even if we all go together, he won't be cautious. He would welcome us as if you were a cute rat, bringing new rat friends. In his perspective, he's just getting more toys. Jean was saying this so confidently for 3 reasons. First, excluding Taika, every native who came in contact with Dino was dragged into the basement. Second, the stories he heard about Myron Zipfel before his regression. The rambunctious Tana twins could be considered angels compared to him. Third, the last conversation he had with Baradin at the Cosmos Arena. They exchanged many words that night, but in one of their conversations, Baradin mentioned that he despised Myron. Elder brother Myron is a handful. You can't even compare him to old hag, fossil-face Andre. Just thinking about him makes me puke while I sleep. I have no idea why the elders let him be the pillar of the 7th Tower of Magicians. Huh, you despise him that much? What kind of person is this man? Dante. A nice guy like you could never conceive the level of that sadistic, psychopathic monster. Jean found it weird that he firmly trusted Baradin's evaluation of Myron. He also kind of missed Dante and Baradin for a second. All of that, what if it's wrong? If while you read the journal, then one native is still alive even after making contact with me. Ludica Taika Mamutica. Yes, she is. Dino stopped, then gritted his teeth. I truly wish your theory is wrong. If it is as you expected, then I think I know why Myron let Taika live. Let's go check it out later. I don't know if my imagination is vivid, or Myron is hot garbage. Hey kiddo, this is cool and all, but what are you gonna do when you meet Myron? What am I gonna do? I'm gonna play along with him and strike him when the time is right. Hearing what Dino said, if we just kill him, then it's over. Understanding Jin's intent, Kashmir nodded and confirmed. Playing along with him while he drinks must be to distract him. Surely he does not know how strong we are. We can also check for traps or something. That's right. While drinking and talking with him, wouldn't there be a chance to strike when his guard is down? I mean, even though my plan may be flawed, a battle is imminent. The 4 gathered and planned their roles. Each of them selected a fake name and occupation. They planned scripts and coordinated conversations just in case. If we somehow get inside, we must find the natives. Once a battle starts, our priority is to protect Dino and the natives. And if any of us senses that Myron lowered his guard, execute him immediately. Dino then summarized all he knew about the Colin ruins in 5 minutes. The central basement is where everyone goes. But I will say this one more time. There are no guards or magicians. Since I can't engage in battle, I can only wish you the best of luck. After organizing their raid, they began to walk down the path to Myron. Dino led the way, and the other 3 followed. Jean took off Myelta's rune, and Kashmir and Murakan removed their masks. Myron, who had been talking to himself, sensed their footsteps and waved at Dino. Oh, I was waiting for you, Dino. I can't talk with these uncivilized fellas here. And you brought friends today. As soon as he saw Myron's smile, Dino could only feel goosebumps crawling up his back. As the kid said, "He's welcoming us." Dino barely managed to maintain composure. He lowered his head. "I apologize for bringing people without permission, Sir Myron. I met them coincidentally, and I thought you'd get sick of talking to me. If I went overboard, I apologize." "It's okay, no worries. Where did you meet them?" Myron looked over to the campfire and spoke. It looked as if he wanted to hide his grin. "I met them while plowing for herbs in the Palon Kingdom. They were soldiers in the kingdom's northern region, but it seems they were returning home for vacation. I am honored to meet you, Sir Myron Zipfel. I am honored." Enough. I don't need self-introductions. Get those pointless greetings out of here. Hey, bring more glasses. A Colin native ran over with more goblets and distributed them. Glug glug glug. Myron poorly filled their goblets. They overflowed with wine, dark purple splattering everyone. Dino Zeglin. Throwing the glass bottle away, Myron made a strange smile, then squinted his eyes, staring into the fire. "Yes, Sir Myron? 2 weeks ago, I really wanted to know who you were. A commoner who comes into the Zipfel's restricted area without remorse. People like that don't exist. I apologize. I'm not trying to blame or flame you. Anyways, from then on, you got on my nerves, especially when you met the natives without my knowing. I thought you were a bad supervisor that my father stuck onto me. He has his ways, you see. Hee hee. Myron chuckled. Dino didn't know what to do, so he just waited for Myron's next words. The visitors were hypersensitive. They felt that the situation was unraveling faster than expected. "And now you bring friends into the restricted area without my permission? Oh heavens. My Dino, what is wrong with you? How could you be so fearless? I can't understand you. I'm about to get goosebumps." Myron burst into hysterical, maniacal laughter. His body quaked from it. He shook so much that he would have stuffed his head into the fire if he wasn't careful. "Sir Myron? Halt." Myron immediately stopped laughing and sipped some wine. "But now I know why your liver's so big and swollen. I don't know what that means. The Garden of Swords. The ones behind you are from there." Cling. Jean swung his sword first. Simultaneously, Kashmir stabbed Myron's back, and Murakin conjured a force field around Dino. Clang. Something deflected the two swords. It was a force field from condensed mana that was hidden by the fire. "I couldn't detect this much mana?" He had his face up close to the fire because of this. Murakin was shocked. Even though Myron was not a spiritual energy user, he could completely conceal his mana usage. "Jean, run candle. It seems the runaway prophet begged at your feet. It seems you know my face. I thought we planned it out pretty well, but now our fake identities weren't even used." Jean stepped back, clicked his tongue, and fixed his stance. Chapter 107. Tragedy of Colin 6. They couldn't really attack. From the fire, many condensed mana spheres emerged and surrounded Myron. The three had never seen this kind of magic. However, they could sense it. It was dangerous. "What's this? I can see the mana clearly with my own 2 eyes, but I can't sense it. And on top of that, Myron knows my face." There was no need to know why Myron knew. Among the 4 Zipfels who came to the Run Candle banquet, one of them could have drawn Jin's profile and shared it with the clan. "I should be careful whenever I face a pure-blood Zipfel. Hee. Ku-ha-ha-ha." Myron kept laughing like a hyena. It was hard to tell if he was confident in winning or just crazy. "I pity that prophet bitch. She went to beg the Run Candles but didn't know that they sent a child to me. Wait, aren't you still a provisional flag bearer? Could have been a personal request from her. Then, As Myron chuckled, Jean was still thinking. It's hard to conceal one's presence even with spiritual energy. An artifact can't do that either. Is this guy also a contractor? Jean dug through his memories from before his regression but couldn't find any information on him. All the information known about Myron was only about his crazy personality and crimes. Jean glanced at Murakin, and he didn't seem to know either. He then looked at Kashmir but realized that the ghost blade wouldn't know much about magic. It looks like he has a special ability, but he's still an 8-star. As long as we don't get distracted, we will never lose. If he doesn't cheat like Andre, who used the demon god's orb, that is. He was an opponent that Jean couldn't face by himself. But with Murakin and Kashmir, he had the upper hand. I just need to fight while keeping in mind that I can't read the flow of mana. Making this conclusion, Jean conjured his aura. Blah blah. Shut the fuck up. Your laughter also sounds disgusting. Foo-foo. Let's have some fun. Crackle crackle crackle. The mana spheres quickly froze. Instantaneously, Myron threw the ice spheres at Jean. The 9 globes of ice, the size of cannonballs, each split into 3 smaller projectiles. Jean and Kashmir dodged to the side. Murakin accurately punched each one, having the need to protect Dino. Oh, was there a martial artist among the Run Candle Guardian Knights? Who the fuck are you tackling about? Guardian Knight? You dumbass. You bastard. After seeing the rest of the projectiles fly to the natives, Murakin spat on the ground, then carried Dino, the journalist's body placed across the dragon's shoulders. The natives froze in fear. After all, normal people couldn't dodge the fast projectiles. Papak. Crack. Murakin threw himself towards the bullets and shattered them with his fists. Are you all gonna die standing still, you idiots? You. Ah. It sounded as if something was stuck in the natives' throats. Murakin then noticed a horrifying sight. Most of them had a deep cut in their necks. It wasn't a wound that they had the day before. Their vocal cords. They're all cut. Jean, Kashmir, and Dino also saw the atrocity. At least 70% of the nearby natives had their vocal cords severed. Ayok! Why you motherfucker! Dino, who had been frozen in place, looked at Myron and screamed. His eyes filled with tears and hatred. How could you? I'll kill you. I'll kill. He. Dino, I ripped some of them out just to see what face you'd make. It seems that you like my little art project. Myron's maniacal grin distorted his face. His eyes curved like crescent moons, and his hair flipped in the wind. Moreover, instead of targeting Jean and Kashmir, he was targeting the natives. Murakin was jumping here and there, but he couldn't do it for long. It would be easier to transform into his true form. However, they were in a land within the Lutero Magic Federation. The moment he turned into a dragon, all of the dragons affiliated with the Zipfel clan would find their way to the Colin ruins. Kashmir couldn't believe his eyes. With feverish anger, he glared at Myron. Dino kept screaming and shouting. Ah ha ha ha. Ha! Myron continued to laugh. However, it was only for a moment. Jean froze, and Myron couldn't read anything from his expressionless face. Nevertheless, Murakin could read his god's contractor's mind. Clear emotion. Fury. Myron Zipfel. Today is the last day. HM? The aura surrounding Bradamanti receded. Then, a black energy began to envelop the blade. Badump! Myron's laughter stopped, and he stared at Jean. He wasn't scared of the young Runcandle's new sword. However, it was the first time his heart beat so hard, so rapidly. Premonition. Myron hadn't felt this in a while. What is this? Soderet's power? Then is Jean Runcandle? The spiritual energy slowly surrounded the blade. Keep laughing, just like before. The surrounding darkness slowly grew darker and deeper. In Jin's spiritual energy release, the surrounding environment was dyed black. The deepened darkness then gathered to his blade. Blade. Unleash. It was his first time using it after his spiritual energy reached 5-star. Young Master Jean, is this the power of the shadows? Kashmir gulped. He had seen Jin's swordsmanship for the longest time. However, Jean looked like a different person with Bradamanti unleashed. Jean activated Myelta's rune, and his grim face was covered by the helm. Ha! Ha ha! Does this mean Soderet stands with the Runcandles once more? Breaking the deal with us. The ice particles that were flying towards the natives stopped. Jean did not answer and called Murakin and Kashmir before pointing to the sky. The two of you need to block that. They simultaneously looked up. Ha! What the hell is that? When the hell did that bastard make that? Hundreds of ice balls floated in the sky, several times more than the Zipfel had shot. The transparent projectiles were barely visible, camouflaged in the night sky. There wasn't a special reason as to why Murakin and Kashmir couldn't detect it. Myron simply did not have a detectable flow of mana. Jean, who was the most knowledgeable of magicians among the three of them, found out after some time of deduction. He deduced that Myron was preparing something nasty. Heh, you finally noticed? I was gonna explode you and those pathetic crimson people like bugs. Pop, pop, pop. Well, I guess I can't anymore. Regaining his composure, Myron grinned. But saving all of them will be hard. Myron didn't want to talk further. He felt like he was facing mongrels instead of humans. Shriek! Jean lifted off his feet with his sword overflowing with aura. His feet were light as a feather as he charged at Myron with tremendous power and speed. Myron frantically cast a force field and shot the nearby ice bullets at Jean. However, the ice projectiles were futile in stopping Jean. In the blink of an eye, all of the bullets shattered into ice crystals and helplessly fell to the ground. Crack! Slash! Every time Myron blinked, the blade was closer than before. At that moment, he fell into a dilemma. No, he was doubting. Would his force field be able to deflect Jin's blade? It can't. Quickly making a conclusion, Myron quickly drew his wand. Instantly, he had cast multiple advanced spells. Jean couldn't read his mana this time as well. 3 spells were cast. 7-star Flame Spell, Fire Barrier, 7-star Ice Spell, Ice Wall, 8-star Wind Spell, Mystic Hellwind. There weren't many magicians who could cast so many spells in such a short amount of time. It's fast, but it's not a simultaneous cast. Still, pretty impressive. 2 7-star defensive spells, and Mystic Hellwind was an offensive spell. Mystic Hellwind was a spell that conjured hundreds of sharp wind blades. A cruel and brutal spell infamous for its ability to chop up the enemy. It was the spell that Myron enjoyed using. Furthermore, it was a very complex spell. Running through the ice projectiles, Jean halted to a stop and covered himself with spiritual energy. Myron smiled as he let out a sigh of relief. As expected, he did contract with Soderette, but his understanding of magic is lacking. He thought of just blocking it. Hellwind doesn't stop until the caster either dies or their mana runs out. The spell began to scratch and tear at Jin's barrier, and feeling an ominous chill, Myron turned his head. A helm with 2 glimmering eyes, Jean. The spiritual energy barrier was a diversion. Jean had waited for the moment that the wind blades were deflected, spread, and blocked Myron's vision. Then, as Myron's sight of Jean was obstructed, he quickly moved out. If Jean hadn't known about Hellwind, he wouldn't have been able to pull it off. Even the caster of the spell themselves would not be able to read the exact timing that Jean could react to. What? Surprised, Myron quickly withdrew the spell. He wanted to stop wasting mana and focus on his fire and ice barriers. He finally found out how heavy and strong Jin's strike was. Swinging Bradamanti, Jin's eyes flared up. KZZZT. Myron had never seen something like this before. He had fought many knights, and there were some who could cut away his magic with a sword. However, he never imagined how quickly the unleashed Bradamanti could pierce the barriers. He's just erasing my magic. His fire barrier and ice wall did not get cut or shattered. Instead, the fire was being extinguished. The ice wall was penetrated first, and the overlaying fire barrier died down. His pure mana force field was the only defensive layer remaining. As the sword approached him, Myron could only step backwards with a shocked expression on his face. However, along with that expression came excitement. He ducked out of his force field and struck his wand on the ground. The floating ice projectiles began to fall, accelerating to the speed of bullets. You would taste very good. Oh, how glorious it would be. Good thing I stayed on this land. On the ground that Jean was standing on, a magic circle started to glow. A trap. Chapter 108. Tragedy of Colin, 7. God damn it. Runt. Block it. All right. You guys, gather around me. Murakin and Kashmir couldn't stop all of the falling ice. Blocking hundreds of projectiles would have been much easier if Murakin could transform into a dragon. Ayok! You! Those with their vocal cords still intact screamed, and those with their severed let out a low, airy sound. There were also many who froze in place. Hey! Move along if you don't want to die. Murakin swore and ran towards the ones who froze in fear. He tossed them to Kashmir. I'm gonna send all of the natives to you, so just focus on blocking the ice bullets. Toss them carefully, Sir Murakin. Jean could not participate in the rescue because of the magic trap. Whoom! Mana chains emerged from the glowing magic circle beneath his feet and wrapped around his ankles. Myron was going to go crazy from the enthusiasm. As hundreds of ice bullets smashed into the ground, the earth rumbled and quaked. Isn't it such a lovely night, Jean Runcandle? Clang! Jean swung Bradamanti to cut the chains. However, no matter how much he swung his sword and broke through, new chains emerged and restrained him. Kuhihi, that's a spell that we, the 7th Tower of Magicians, brag about. It's impossible. Crack! To get out. Was that too weak? Aw, don't look at me like that. There's a lot more where that came from. Before Myron could complete his sentence, Jean broke free from the chains. He enhanced his spiritual energy, then attacked, shattering the magic circle. However, his surroundings still glowed with mana. Many magic circles were suspended in the air, so he couldn't move as freely. This guy is crazy. How many traps did he even cast? I can't read his mana flow, so I can't even sense these traps. The Colin Ruins was no longer a disposed ruin with all of the traps. It was now akin to a kind of magic fortress. Jean had never fought someone in a place with so many precast spells. Although it looked as if he escaped the mana chains with ease, in reality, it took quite a toll on him. Mustering explosive amounts of spiritual energy right after unleashing his blade was not an easy feat. If all of his traps are like this is a little problematic. I can't use spiritual energy like that much longer. I'm just gonna die of exhaustion before I can even get my hands on him. Murakin and Kashmir were busy saving the natives. They couldn't help until all of the ice projectiles had been deflected. But can an 8-star magician use this much mana? Although Jean couldn't read Myron's mana flow, just by looking at the spells, he knew that Myron needed to use insane amounts of mana at once. Only considering the ice projectiles falling towards the natives, that would take at least 60% of an 8-star magician's mana. Even if he cast the traps beforehand, maintaining them would drain him quickly. In fact, he used 3 high-tier spells before this. It wasn't the strength of an 8-star. Either Myron was a 9-star or he has a mana enhancement artifact. I have to find and destroy it. I wonder what you're pondering about. Myron spun his wand through the air, and another trap was activated. This time, a concentrated beam of mana was shot behind Jean. As he prepared to throw himself to the side to dodge, dozens of smaller magic circles were activated. It was a spell that Jean knew well. Erosion, an 8-star earth spell where any object within the magic circle would disintegrate and get absorbed by the ground. There were only 2 ways to evade the spell. Either break the magic with stronger spells, or escape the area surrounded by the magic circles. Instead of throwing himself into the activated earth spells, getting hit by the giant laser was better. Vroom! Jean used Bradamanti to cut through the beam of light. Sparks of mana flew everywhere and burned Jin's skin. Thankfully, he didn't suffer any severe injuries. Just as he was about to move out of the laser, more erosion traps were activated. The dark red mana began to disintegrate and vacuum the surroundings, and Jean gulped. Phew, I would have died there. The fact that he sliced through the 8-star laser beam meant that his spiritual energy was stronger than Myron's magic. Myron's eyes narrowed. Father said that Sodaret was originally the god of swords. As expected, Jean Runcandle will be hard to deal with when he uses his sword. And on top of that, he understands my spells. He thought that Jin's deflection of Hellwind was a coincidence. However, his calm and composed actions at the activation of multiple traps and not dodging into erosion were too perfect to be a coincidence. Wait, are you a magic swordsman? Jin's eyes widened. Thankfully, his helm covered his face, so Myron could not see his shock. No one had figured out Jin's specialty this fast. Myron wasn't the pillar of the 7th Tower of Magicians for nothing. He was definitely much stronger considering his horrible personality. In a mannerism-obsessed society like the Zipfel clan, his magic had to be that much stronger to compensate for his scumbag demeanor. Kahihi. No answer. I'm already sure of it. You're a magic swordsman. Myron, who had kept his distance all this time, approached Jin. It would be weird for him to enter close combat range as a magician against an opponent like Jin who had an unleashed sword. All of his traps were working fine, so there was no need to close the gap. However, Jin instantly understood the magician's goal. He's going to inject mana into me and force a mana overload. To those who possess mana, the most dangerous moment was when their mana began to overload. For magicians, the outcome of the battle was more predictable than that of knights. The magician with the stronger magic could induce a mana overload and easily end the battle. This was not good for Jin. Surrounded by dozens of activating traps, he couldn't move between all of the magic circles. And conversely, Myron walked through them as if it was nothing. So Jin's durable and powerful body was ruled out for the fight. Mana overload is the most devastating loss for those who possess magic. Kuhiha RK. However, in close combat, martial arts and swordsmanship weren't Jin's only skills. As Myron gathered inconceivable amounts of mana in his wand and prepared to stab Jin with it, flash, an ancient light spell that offered him a second chance in moments of danger. Photon cannon. A powerful light flashed between them. Jin smiled in relief, and Myron stumbled backwards with hands over his eyes. The fuck are you mumbling about? As Myron recoiled for a short moment, the trap's magic circles dimmed. The ice projectiles in the sky shattered into pieces. Jin then swung Bradamanti. Slash. Particles of spiritual energy scattered, trailing behind the blade's path. The feeling of cutting through flesh and bones. Jin could sense it through his fingertips. Left arm. Disappointing. He aimed to cut Myron in half, but Jin could only cut his left arm. The magician used his mana and compressed the air to change Bradamanti's trajectory. Reactions unlike any magician. Almost like a beast. He's lacking compared to Andre, but he's still a formidable opponent. He knew that he couldn't kill with another attack, so he planned to escape the trap-infested grounds instead. The entirety of the Colin ruins was covered in traps anyway. Despite this, Jin concluded that the most dangerous traps were on the battlefield. Plop. Myron's left arm fell on the ground, and a whirlpool of dark mist spiraled around the wound. The same was occurring for his shoulder. The remaining spiritual energy ate away at his bones and flesh. Wow! Amazing! The power of light and shadow. I really want it for myself. Urk! Myron let out a deep breath and conjured a small magic sword. He cut off the wound infected with the dark spiritual energy. He didn't really care that his arm was cut off. It wasn't just any bravado. He was enjoying the fight. You think I'm crazy? Jin Runcandle, I can't see your beautiful face because of that helm. But I think you are making an excited expression. You and I are not so different. We both love to fight. That was Myron's mistake. Think whatever you want to think. I'll give you that freedom until your death. Why, thank you. But can you really kill me? These pathetic fellows. They'll protect me. Let's see. I've used 3 so far. The fuck do you mean? Don't you think it's a little strange? Your understanding of magic is deep. You definitely know that I'm operating above the 8-star limit. Used 3 so far. Jin reinterpreted that line and let out short breaths. Myron Zipfel. There's no way. What do you mean? There's no way? It's exactly what you're thinking. I'm using these useless people to enhance my mana. You're using humans as your catalyst? If you can't believe it, I'll show you. Hehe. Boom. Myron shot a ball of mana towards the small building. The structure, which was already broken from the falling ice, was obliterated. It was the basement where the natives were dragged that Dino described. The dust settled and revealed a pile of people covered with runes. Not all of them were visible. However, it was definitely the destination of Myron's victims. Kashmir and Murakan saw the horrifying sight and shook their heads. Dino looked soulless and slumped to the ground. You seem to be confused. You must be wondering why I'm just showing you my weakness like that. I'm showing you because I want to know how much you value these mongrels. If you didn't care about them, all three of you would be hitting me at once. But instead, you let Jean Runcandle fight me alone. How foolish. Myron clicked his tongue. If you want to end me, let those Manosaurus roaches die. They don't deserve to be alive. And fight me, all three of you. Isn't that easy? Fuck that kindness and morality bullshit. And give me your all. Kahihi. Who? Jean let out a heavy sigh. It's a lie. A woman shouted. It's all a lie. His mana isn't empowered by the people but our divine relic. Chapter 109. Tragedy of Colin, 8. Note. Due to a slight mistake in translation, Leosa has been changed to Lausa. Sorry for the error, and we hope you enjoy this chapter regardless. The woman was limping. She had been hiding near the demolished building when she got caught in the debris. And there was one reason as to why she was there. She thought that maybe, just maybe, it would be possible to save the people piled up in the building while Jean fought Myron. Not because they were alive, but because she wished to create an honorary grave for them. The ones over there are already dead. He's enhancing his mana with the divine relic. Taika! Dino shouted. The woman's name was Ludica Taika Mamutica. She took the place of Lausa as the natives' prophet. However, since she was not a chosen one, she didn't have any divine powers. She was just a normal human. Myron's face wrinkled. He wanted to see Jean guard the pile of people with his life following the delusion of their livelihood. That rat bastard bitch. You dare ruin my show? Ting. Two blue flames flared in Myron's eyes. The Zipful clan's vision spell, Gaze of Azure. Flame. He had heard about it from his master in the past, but it was his first time seeing it in action. The Zipful's secret techniques are dangerous, but the Gaze of Azure Flame is the most annoying. Having it directed at you would engulf you in inextinguishable blue flames. Myron's eyes flicked towards Taika. Burn in hell! And from Taika's ankles, fire began to spread. Although she was severely injured, she had enough capacity to shout towards Jean and his allies. However, the moment the blue fire combusted her skin, the pain was nothing a normal human could bear. Ayok! Taika! We must save her. She is the only one that keeps the tribe together. Taika fell to the floor and began to convulse, eyes rolling back. She struggled to breathe because of the excruciating pain that echoed through her body after each contracting muscle. The highlight of tonight was you fools guarding a pile of corpses. Myron was not satisfied with Taika's painful misery. He spat on the ground. At this rate, she's going to die before the fire completely spreads. Running towards Taika, Jean remembered another conversation with his master. Then what do I do when one is affected by this spell? Don't try to neutralize it with a pour ice or healing spell. Whatever you do, you have to overpower it with a stronger flame. A stronger flame. A name immediately popped into mind. Jean put his hands together to gather enough mana and open the dimensional portal. The ruler of the fire dimension. The Phoenix. Tess. Summon. VVVVVVT. A massive tear in space emerged next to Jean. Between the gap came flaming blue wings. Every time they moved, hot wind spread everywhere. Myron couldn't believe his eyes. He blinked slowly multiple times. Tess? You summoned Tess. The legend of every magician's dream. Zipful magicians were very disappointed because they couldn't contract with Tess. Because becoming the owner of Tess would mean becoming the best magician of the era. That Runcandle fetus is going to be the greatest magician of the century? You're going to surpass me without my permission. Myron's laughter disappeared. On the other hand, Jean smiled. As soon as Tess was summoned, he was certain that the Zipful's Gaze of Azure Flame wouldn't stand a chance against true blue flames. Everything will be all right, Taika. Tess lowered their head to Taika's burning body. After a second, they let out a fiery breath. Instantly, the blue flames at Taika's ankles were extinguished. The burn marks disappeared as well, as if there was no flame in the first place. The power as the Lord of Flames. Tess could make it so that the wounds caused by a pathetic imitation of blue flames never existed. Tach, thank you. As for me, if it weren't for you, we would have been toyed with by that garbage. I'll tell you the main points since we don't have much time. The tribesman in the building had been dead, and Myron is using the divine relic. However, he did not find it. Then how? Myron tortured our people to get some activation chance out of us. The divine relic is still hidden, in a place where only we can find. Though not fitting with the situation, Dino felt a little disappointed. Damn, she didn't even tell me that much. For centuries, under the Zipfels' oppression, the Colin natives hadn't revealed the location of the divine relic a single time. If it's someone sent by Lady Lausa, I can trust them. I will tell you, after we get rid of that man. Jean nodded. Myron could not contain his hate and anger that his frown distorted his face. Jean turned around and looked at him. All right, Blue Fire. Is that it? Now I'll send you away, just as you wished, to the place you deserve to be the most. Hell. Jean could easily discern Myron's expression. I'm sure he is humiliated because I summoned Tess. He doesn't want to admit that he's weaker. Myron looked furious, which was why Jean chose his words carefully to provoke him further. Playtime's over, Jean Runcandle. I'll tear you apart little by little and chew on each bit of flesh. I will lick your bones clean. Fighting an enraged enemy was always an easier battle. Sir Kashmir, please continue to protect the natives. Murakan, let's go all out. Don't give him a single second to react. Are you saying I can transform? You crazy? You really think you should? Shit. Yeah. All right. Hey, you friggin' bird. Stop swearing. Of course, they carried on this weird side conversation to piss off Myron. They didn't really plan this. However, the contractor and his dragon were inherently coordinated. Murakan charged in from behind while Jean and Tess rushed in from the front. Blood rushed to Myron's brain, blood vessels becoming visible on his forehead. Myron, will not be easy to punish. TSSSSS. The blue fire on Myron's eyes extinguished. In Tessa's presence, his vision spell was pointless. You said I deserve to be in hell? A fine choice of words. Jean Runcandle. Myron began to cast a spell that the clan restored and declared as a secret technique. Hence, a sealed technique. At one point, I was the spouse of Witch Halurim, a man who shared a glass with the kings at Tigris Mountain in the western region of the Black Sea. Jean stopped just as he was about to draw his sword. Is this a darkness-type spell? Similar to the light spell, it was erased and forgotten off the face of the planet. Darkness spells could not be found in a single magic tome or book. People thought that it was merely an oral tradition. Jean only guessed that it was a darkness spell, but he didn't exactly know what it was. Murakan flinched, and Tess let out a screech as if they were angry. Kawa! The phoenix blew fire with massive pressure onto Myron. It was on a different level than the one used on Elisa. Even the summoner, Jean, could feel the weight of the pressure from the fire. Tess is furious? What the hell is that spell anyways? At that moment, Murakan gathered the shadows cast by Tess's fire and converted it into spiritual energy. Kiddo, he's lending his body to Demon King Orgel. We have to end him before he finishes the spell. Unleash your blade to the maximum. Now! Murakan shot out the spiritual energy as if he were releasing a dragon's breath. The blue flames and spiritual energy swallowed Myron. But Jean realized that none of the attacks were effective. A strange purple energy protected Myron. Something that Jean had never seen before. A force field? No. That's a dimensional portal. The same gateway he made to summon Tess, excluding the eerie purple light. And the portal was connected to the dark world that people usually referred to as Hell. Tessa's highest pressure fire breath was to prevent the portal from completely opening. Murakan stained the hell gate with his spiritual energy so Jean could aim his sword. It was a mark. Otherwise, he would be swinging at thin. Use Bradamanti to cut at the spiritual energy. All right. SSSSSSS. Mustering spiritual energy as his mana rapidly depleted from summoning Tess was almost impossible for Jean. Kurg! As soon as he gathered spiritual energy, early signs of mana overflow emerged. Blood flowed out of his mouth, nose, and ears, and he felt like fainting immediately. As his mana grew more unstable, Tessa's power gradually decreased. The pressure of the blue flames grew visibly weaker, and Myron took this chance to recast his spell. And he whose life miserably ended to Helurim's dagger, bestowed with death, entering the depths of hell. Call my name. Kra'af. Deactivating Myelta's rune, Jean spat out blood and charged forward. The mana overflow occurred because of magic, and Jin's will to move came from his spirit as a knight, being able to exert identical swings of the sword 10,000 times. The stage where he could show determination through the sword. Although Mine's blade was far from his reach, right before he lost consciousness. Cut! As if he were casting a spell, he chanted that word. Every step he took towards Myron, Jean chanted it over and over again, in order to fully manifest his goal to cut the portal, just like how the ancient run-candle magic swordsmen mustered their power. SSSSH. The blazing spiritual energy on Bradamanti's blade slowly simmered. The smoky spiritual energy completely soaked into the blade, and the sword was born anew. Compared to the musky spiritual energy, the blade shone as it reflected the moonlight, as if it were sharpened and polished to perfection. Slayawash. Jean swung down onto the hell gate. Feeling the last bits of possession, Myron shuddered. Then he realized that his plan was foiled. Damn! Kahihi! And with his only arm, he squeezed out the rest of his energy to whip out his wand one more time. Chapter 110. Tragedy of Colin 9. Whip! Myron's hand ripped through the air. He didn't have a single drop of mana left, so it looked as if he was just swinging his wand around. Is it over? The hell gate, which was cut by the sword engulfed in spiritual energy, let out a loud screech as it shriveled up into nothing. Thump! Jean fell to the ground. His face was stained with blood, but he didn't have any severe injuries. Bradamanti returned to its original form. Kid! Young Master Jean, are you all right? Murakan and Kashmir frantically rushed over to him, and Tess drew back the fire. The phoenix slowly faded and disappeared while worriedly looking at Jean. Jean couldn't keep Tess summoned as his mana had been all used up. What about Myron? He burned to death while standing. Well done, kid. Murakan pointed at Myron, who failed to cast his final spell. He died to Tess's flames, but apparently, standing and dying emotionlessly wasn't enough for him. Even in death, Myron had a creepy smile stretched across his face. From all of the enemies I've faced, he's the most terrifying. Did he swing his wand unconsciously? Although the magician's death left a weird aftertaste, Jean couldn't think much longer. His exhaustion made staying awake unbearable. Dino and Taika, as well as all of the other survivors, surrounded Jean. They were shivering from fear, enough to trigger a seizure. It was because of Myron's still-standing corpse. Murakan, you're all right. And what about Sir Kashmir? Everyone's okay except you, so shut the fuck up. 3 insane powers are having an orgy inside your body. Damn it. If the mana overflow causes a countercurrent, will I die? Yeah, you'll die. Really? Nah. I'm joking, you good boy. I knew you could do it. Anyways, you're not gonna die. But if we don't do anything, you're gonna be crippled for half a year. Show me all of the medicine we have. Right here. Kashmir took out the medicine that he brought. He had brought many luxurious remedies for the heat of battle. Unfortunately, there wasn't anything that could help Jean. What the fuck? Who told you to bring all these useless stuff? Why didn't you bring the unicorn horn powder? You also had other healing stuff in your bag. Anything else? How about blue fish scales? I don't have those in my bag. I apologize. You said to bring immediate healing items. Huh. Well shit. Kid. Say goodbye to half a yeah. Hey, Jean. Don't die on me. Kid. Hey. Murakin turned his head. It was Taika. What? There may be medicine in Myron's basement. I heard that he captured some unicorns while drunk. A magician's laboratory usually had many items for experimentation. Such was especially true for a lab that belonged to a pureblood Zipfel. One would be able to find a plethora of weird compounds there. Lead me there. Now. Over there. With the pile of corpses. Murakin ran towards the destroyed building and began to shuffle through the debris. He found a barely intact cabinet and ripped off the lock. Whoa! A big unicorn horn met his eyes. He crushed it as if it were nothing, then slipped the powder into Jin's mouth. The young Runcandle's body jolted. Kurg! Jean vomited dark red blood. Unicorn horn was the best to deal with mana overflow. However, if the consumer was above 7-star, then it would be ineffective. Finally, that feels better. Though my spiritual energy and aura were all twisted up. Where'd you get the unicorn horn? Murakin tried to answer but was interrupted by Taika, who began to cry and bow to Jean. My name is Ludika Taika Mamutica, and I greatly thank you for saving us. Our people will never forget your deed. And the other natives began to bow as well. Dino joined them too. Oh, please stand. Lady Lausa sent me here. We know. Jean Runcandle, our savior. If it weren't for you, we would never have executed our objective and succumbed to the Zipfel's rule. There were only around 30 natives left. About 20 died from Myron's ice projectiles, and 150 died after being brought to the basement. It was depressing. The natives finished their bowing and went to the pile of corpses. They mourned at the horrifying sight. The prophet, she asked you to save us. Is that right? Yes, that's right. This couldn't be called saving. So many people had already died. Jean made a bittersweet smile. She didn't mean to bring everyone back alive. She was asking us to recover the divine relic of Colin. The mirror. We have to recover it? Does that mean it's broken or something? I've never heard of that in my past life. Jean knew about the mirror, but Murakin did not. Hey, you're Taika, right? What is this divine relic? Myron's mana got super boosted or something, and you said that you orally activated the relic, right? Yes, that is correct. And you probably noticed that his mana was unreadable. That is also due to the relic's power. I'm actually a dragon who has lived for over 3,000 years. But I've never heard of such a relic. What the hell is it? What kind of god do you serve? Our god goes by Cullum. Never heard of him. Well, alright. Let's get that relic and return home. We have some ships awaiting us. The survivors gotta survive. Although he spoke without care, Murakin still felt pity for the natives. Whoever saw their plight would have felt pity as well. As long as they weren't a man named Myron. We should. I know that we are always in grave danger. However, O great dragon, recovering the divine relic would take until tomorrow noon even if we start now. What? Tomorrow noon? It takes that long. We must gather our people and unseal our land. And so we need the sun's energy. I apologize that we are causing such a hassle for our saviors. Young Master Jean, Sir Murakin, we can't wait until tomorrow morning. This land is within the Lutero Magic Federation, and we just killed a pureblood Zipfel. Kashmir pointed at Myron's corpse, charred but still standing. Lady Lausa indeed mentioned the recovery of the divine relic, but staying until tomorrow. We will all be slaughtered. He was right. However, since there were no witnesses other than the natives and Dino, holding until the next morning was possible. In fact, they were in restricted land managed by the Zipfel clan. Even if the sun was high, no one would come near the area. Well, the decision always goes to the kid. What's the next move? Do we wait until noon tomorrow? Or do we escape with the survivors? Taika's eyes flickered. Including her and the natives, the recovery of the divine relic was more important than their life. Jean opened his mouth to speak. Miss Taika, Is there a Zipful inspection team that comes here regularly? Or checks on Myron? There are almost no cases where outsiders come to us. There hasn't been anyone other than Dino for the past month. Before that, his underlings came sometimes, but they really didn't want to be with him, probably because Myron knew they were supervisors. If there isn't anyone who comes regularly, I think that we could wait until noon and take the divine relic with us. Young Master, will that be all right? It's too dangerous. Sir Kashmir, I'm sure you've fought with an 8-star magician before. About 3 times. As you felt, Myron had cast spells with mana close to that of a 9-star. In fact, we couldn't read his mana flow at all. And that wasn't even using the divine relic properly. If such an item goes into the hands of the Zipfuls. Silence. Jean already experienced what happened when the Zipfuls obtained the mirror. They cranked out 7 stars like a factory. Only their mana was 7-star, though they were pathetic excuses of magicians, and the world was just ruled by the Zipfuls. On that note, they had to acquire the mirror before them. The kid's right. Runt, that kid isn't stupid. Getting out of here would be the most reasonable decision. However, the Zipfuls with that artifact. We can't deal with that. Never. Good point. I didn't think it through that far. And even if we wanted to leave, Miss Taika wouldn't. Isn't that right? Taika nodded. Our reason for living and our life's ultimate goal is to guard Cullum's will. We would only become a hassle to you. Which is probably why you didn't give the Zipfuls the relic even after going through 300 years of oppression. No need to be sorry. We are only working for ourselves. Miss Taika, you should go help your people. Jean glanced at the demolished building, where many were weeping. Taika bowed with moist eyes. Hey, Dino approached Jean. Yes, journalist Dino Zeglin? I didn't know that you were Jean Runcandle. Let's try to brainstorm how we could write an article which would deliver the most discomfort to the Zipfuls. Of course, you would leave out our names in the report. As a journalist, I solemnly swear that I will not write your names in the article. I would never betray those who saved my friends. You do seem like a person who would do that, Dino. Well, I have some stuff to think about, so you do your thing. Find solid evidence until noon. Evidence that will prevent the Zipful clan from lifting a finger. Understood. Dino then disappeared into the woods. Jean looked at Myron's corpse, eyes slowly dilating, and continued his earlier train of thought. Was the last swing of his wand really done while unconscious?